and start recording. And if, Megan, you can just open the meeting and note that we do not have quorum and we will not be taking any votes. And this is a purely discussion, this meeting.
All right, welcome y'all to the May UFPC meeting. I would like to open the floor for discussion and public forum. However, since we don't have quorum, there will not be any official business at our meeting tonight. So to that extent, I'd like to turn the floor over to our guest, Jennifer.
Thanks, Megan, and thank you all for having me. I know a few of you, and my name is Jennifer Bedrosian. I work at Piedmont Triad Regional Council and help support our Regional Food Council. So we have an upcoming opportunity that I wanted to share with you all to please pass along to your networks. It is a micro grant opportunity that is being offered to start in 4 counties. So at the Piedmont Triad Regional Council, we work in 12 counties of the Piedmont Triad, and we will be rolling this out in all 12 counties eventually, but we're starting with 4, and that is Alamance, Caswell, Davidson, and Forsyth. And these micro grants are going to be offered through a process called shared gifting, which a couple of you I think are familiar with, but essentially, we are going to be facilitating some groups, participants that apply for projects in a discussion, and everyone the participants become grantors. So they kind of putting the decision-making power with the grantees and kind of flipping that script a little bit. So what we have a pool of money, and everyone that applies and is accepted into the shared gifting circle will receive $1,000 for participation. And then we will have some other funding. We're still working on what that exact dollar amount is going to be. That will be distributed between the groups. So we can accept up to 5 groups in Forsyth County. And these applications are meant to be community building, capacity building in the realm of health, the local food system, economic development, and really empowering, kind of seed money for some projects and some good work that's being done in your county. So if you know someone that could benefit from this opportunity, it does require participation in the shared gifting circles that I was talking about. And for Forsyth County, we do already have this scheduled for their evening times, Tuesday, July 6th and Thursday, July 8th from 6 to 8:30 p.m. I will post a link in the chat box with some information where you can find all of this information, as well as a link to the application on our website. The application is very simple. It's like 6 questions describing your project, who you are. It does require groups would need to have a W-9 for financial and reporting reasons, but it's meant to be not take more than 3 hours of your time. We want it to be really accessible for people. And the deadline is coming up soon, though, on May 20th. So we've still got about a week. But if you have questions, my information is on the website, but I'm also going to post it in the chat here. If you have any questions and want to talk about it or know some groups that might be interested, I am going to post that in the chat as well. I'm happy to answer questions now since it's a discussion, and if anybody has some. But
Jennifer, I heard you talk a lot about the application process from different meetings, but I'm wondering what kind of reporting will look like after the fact for folks who do receive money. And can you talk a little bit about that process?
Yeah, absolutely. I can actually just tell you too, the questions that we're asking for the application is, just so you know, like how simple we've tried to make this, is really just contact information, the names and emails of people that are participating in the gifting circle, what county you're working in, and what you want the project to do and how you will do it, how you intend to positively impact the food system, any new connections you expect to result from the project, how the funding will be used, a time frame, and a simple budget. We're not really requiring any budget, like a template or anything you have to use, but we are requesting suggesting projects between $1,000 and $5,000, just depending on how, so participants will get $1,000 for participation, and then you'll receive additional money that the group kind of gets to decide through this process of how that gets divided up. And then for the follow-up that Tiffany was asking, we're also wanting that to be really accessible as well. We are going to require some type of follow-up, but we want people, that could be as simple as just like a page, description of your project. It could be a lyrical poem. It could be a video. We really wanted people to feel like they could be creative in how they follow up with us, and there are not a lot of restrictions for this. So just really wanted to get out to people and hope it can be helpful. So yeah, feel free to pass it on. Like I said, reach out to me with questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Jennifer. It looks direct, to the point, and like a great opportunity.
We hope so. So we're a little bit new at this process of shared gifting, so we'll be learning too, but we're excited about it.
Jennifer, I wonder, while we have you, if you might be willing to talk a little bit about the food assessment you all did too, since this will be on Facebook, might reach some different people.
Yeah, absolutely. So our food council over the last year plus, I think some of you attended the meeting, or we just hosted a launch event for, we've been working on a regional food assessment over, like I said, the past, since 2019, really. We worked with a consulting group to produce a large document that focused on 5 research buckets. And that was food security, farm and food production, supply chain, community assets, and all of this information is available on our website. We have we have an online interactive report. So it's just like a lot of the information condensed and really accessible for people. And it has some video and lots of graphs, and it's colorful, and also county profiles that you can download. So for Forsyth County, it kind of takes all of that information into like a 4-page document, the kind of overview, and gives you that so we hope that kind of information will be helpful for talking to public officials and policy making, grants, and just, as community organizations are applying for things like that. So we hosted a launch event, like I mentioned, earlier this month, where we shared that information, also had some great videos. All of that information I'll also post here, is available on our website. And our council is going to be moving forward with 3 action items from this assessment, one of which is shared gifting, and the other 2 are working on building out some partner presentations for groups, city, county officials, community organizations, health organizations, anybody that kind of wants us to delve a little bit deeper into some of that information or could benefit from some kind of presentation to certain groups. So we're working on that now. And I'm keeping a record of any requests that we receive. So feel free to reach out about that. And then the 3rd item that we're working on is community to council listening sessions, where we want to be talking to some of the groups that normally don't have voices at the table, and some of our furthest from justice identified groups in the assessment that we didn't feel like we adequately were able to outreach during the food assessment due to COVID and a lot of the things that were happening over this last year. So we will be working on those 3 things, and still working on exactly the details of what all that looks like, but we're happy to take requests for all of those things. And I think Tiffany posted the link in the chat. Thank you for doing that. And I'll also post for on the Learn, Build, Eat was the name of our event. And on this particular page, you can find like the PowerPoint presentation, a link to the full report, the online report also. I think it might have a little bit different information than what Tiffany put up there.
Thank you. I think I have shared out the report with you all, and I'll include that in a follow-up to this meeting as well. But I just think kudos to you all. It's visually appealing, and I find the information really helpful personally. So hopefully you all as a council will too.
Yeah, we hope that it will, and that people, some of it, we had a great partnership with Second Harvest Food Bank to kind of get down to some of the granular data, food insecurity data that I think was definitely new and would be really useful. And then it's also just a way, some of the data, what is from things, 2017 and some of the cooperative extension county profiles, which are updated every 5 years, I believe. But it's a way of like finding all of that kind of in one place, so that some people have said, it's really helpful when you're writing a grant, like to dig through that information. So we're hoping that those county profiles will help you all with that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see as time moves on how people use that document and interface with it and ask around. But
yeah, and we're really interested in continuing to build it and, on that. And this last year for, as we all know, was really challenging, and there's a lot of numbers and things that will be changing. And so we're wanting to continue building that out. And so looking forward to sharing that as we move forward.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Jennifer. It's a great opportunity. Thanks for sharing your email too, in case anyone has any questions. Next on our agenda for just public discussion, we have Matt Mayers, who's joined with us regarding a proposal on utilities, water specifically. I let him know that, again, we don't have quorum, so this is just a public discussion, but we'd love to hear more about your proposal, Matt.
Sure. Is my sound okay? Sometimes people complain about this mic. Okay. I don't know that I have a very specific proposal, but during the conference a couple of weeks ago, during the I think it was the session on regulations, it came up, or maybe it was urban farming. I don't remember, but it came up
several times.
Yeah, for a while, it was possible for urban farmers to get a hydrant meter and use water off of a fire hydrant. I don't know if it was ever technically allowed under the rules, but they were doing it. I know because I did it and renewed at least once. And while it was, there was a little bit of a barrier in that you had to put down, I can't remember how many hundreds of dollars, but it was maybe 2, 3, or possibly 5. It was a significant amount of money that you had to put down, but it wasn't anywhere near as expensive as having an irrigation system with a backflow preventer and inspection done. When the city told us that we could no longer do that, the best deal that we could find was a plumber who was a friend who let us do some of the digging work and the concrete work. It still came out to over $1,000 to put in the backflow preventer and do the third-party inspection, which is a pretty, I think that's a pretty substantial barrier for most people who are thinking about doing urban farming, especially if it's on a smaller scale. And I don't know for sure how stringent they are in enforcing this. But if you want to, if you're doing your urban farming on a lot that doesn't have a building on it, and therefore you want to be charged only for water and not for storm drain or for, what's the other part of your bill? It's not coming to me, but the storm drain portion and the sewer, that's what it is. That's a considerable savings, right? It cuts your water bill in something like half. Because you're only paying for the water you use. So there's this problem of you want to get the reasonable rate. You're not using the storm drain services and you're not using sewer services, but then there's this big expense. So I don't know what's reasonable to ask for in terms of input or help from the city. I could imagine that they probably wouldn't be too, too opposed to the idea of help, but that's a very tiny bill. The big part of the cost is the equipment itself and the installation, which has to be done by a certified plumber. So I don't know if does the city have its own plumbers that would be willing to have come and do the work if an urban farmer bought the backflow preventer, or what could be possible. But upwards of $1,000 is a pretty big barrier, in my opinion. We were able to do it because we had already been going for a couple of years, and we had accumulated a little bit of money from sales, and because we had been able to do the hydrant meter version for over a year. So anyway, I guess I should stop there and see if anybody has comments or questions, or I'm not sure I can answer very many questions. I don't have a lot more information than what I've just told you.
No, I think that's fascinating, right? Because I think that there's the water in and the water out, right? So here, if you're just asking for water in, is there a process in a way to apply for some sort of different utility line, different utility bill that's just water in and not the water out? I also know the city has, in my opinion, a good history of at least trying for people to pay for their own sewage, like Tobaccoville, things like that. And I like urban sprawl. If you're going to build it, you also have to ahead of time put in those water in, water out lines. But it's a really fair point. If you're doing this just for ag, could there be a way where the city could bill only the water coming in, given that you're not really connecting to the water out, which is like the sewage and the wastewater and all that, right? That was kind of how I heard what you were saying.
That's exactly right. And that's what they do. They will bill you just for the water. However, to get there is expensive to get to that point. And it's because of the requirement of the backflow preventer. Mm-hmm. That's really the big obstacle.
And so that has to be like a plumber that comes in and installs it. So you're wondering if there's some sort of city program to do that part.
Either that, or I don't know if the mechanisms themselves are fairly expensive, and then the labor is fairly expensive. So if either, I don't know, surely the city has its own plumbing shop, I would guess, right? Or maybe not, I don't know. And I don't know, are they able to, do they buy, I'm sure they buy backflow preventers all the time too. I wonder if they have a way of, do they buy them at scale? Can they get them at some kind of a good price and pass that along to urban farmers? Or I don't know, it just seems like there might be some way for them to lend a hand without losing their own shirt.
So what was the process when they had the hookup to the hydrant program? Because we're definitely, especially in Winston, we're definitely a water surplus geography. That's why we attract all these wet industries.
Yeah, for that, all you have to do is you go down to the meter shop, which is down MLK, way down past the stadium. And you go in and you sign away your firstborn, and they give you a hydrant meter and a wrench. And it's not really your firstborn, it's just some money, but you get the money back is kind of the point, minus whatever you actually use in water, but you're only paying for water, which is pretty cheap, so that was pretty easy. But then at some point, they contacted me and said, these are really not meant for ongoing use. They're meant for basically for construction projects that are meant to be temporary. And I don't know if that's because of a safety issue or what, I don't know. It's conceivable. Although that's kind of odd too, because, every I think almost every hydrant has like 3 places you can hook up to or something.
Is it potable water? Like it's safe for irrigation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the hydrants run on city water.
Well, that's fascinating. That's definitely something to look into. Especially because, you know, there are certain times a year that irrigation is more necessary, but also typically we've got the water surplus. I see them draining the hydrants ahead of big storms. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that was just like a sizable deposit and then a much cheaper, no farmer infrastructure kind of situation.
That's right. Yeah, it's a sizable deposit, and then you get it for 6 months, and then you take it in, and they read the meter, and they give you back your deposit minus the value of whatever water you actually used. Which
you always got some money back from the deposit?
Oh yeah, lots of money back, because over the course of 6 months, we might, even on a plot that added up to about 3/4 of an acre all told, we used less than $100 of water in 6 months. Yeah.
Wow. That's me in my residence. That's amazing. That's a better price. That's a better price.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I see a chat from Carol about why do you need a backflow thing? And that is an excellent question. I asked that myself and they said, do it. But I think that the reason is that in many circumstances, people who are using an irrigation system are also sending fertilizer or things through the irrigation system. You know, they might be fertilizers or chemicals of some sort or whatever. And if there's any backflow into the potable water, that's bad. Even, you know, I did assure them that I wasn't going to be doing that, but they said, well, that's all well and good, but you're not going to live forever. And the next person to come along might well do something differently, which is a good point. You know, I understand the desire for the backflow preventer just to maintain the quality of the water system. I'm not sure if it's overkill or not, but it is the rule. I just imagine that they'd be less flexible on the actual rule than maybe, you know, providing some aid to get there.
Yeah, I mean, I think our water quality is something we're real proud about recently, right? Didn't we get a big ranking? No, didn't the city recently get a very high ranking?
We did. I can't remember where we ranked, but yeah, we did.
I think we ranked number 1.
Award for artwork on our tank.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a hard thing, right? Because I want to believe that when people kind of are earnest and say they're not putting junk in it, they don't. But also if you don't regulate or test, some people might be putting fertilizer, pesticides, stuff that we just don't want building up, you know? So I guess in that way I see where they want that back-end infrastructure. I'm not sure though. I'm not sure if there might be some quarterly or biannual testing that individuals could do to kind of document that they don't need the backflow. You know, I'm not sure.
If it were me running,
I want to believe that people don't use pesticides and harmful things, but they might.
Yeah, I mean, if it were me making the rules, I probably would be hesitant also to waive the backflow preventer rule, and not just because people might put things in the water that they claimed they weren't, but also because I can imagine, for instance, somebody having a big drip irrigation system or something that they use, and then they kind of abandon the system for half a year, and nasty stuff grows in it and flows back into the water system of the city. Maybe, I don't know. It just seems like as a point of safety, I'm not really against the whole backflow thing as much as I am against the cost of it.
So that's an interesting point though, right? That's something that we could kind of look at developing, just kind of dovetailing on Jennifer's small grant that's direct and easy, right? Could there be some sort of cost sharing grant where the city is able to pitch in, but then still appropriately protect the security of our water, which, that's a public good. That's a positive externality. Everyone is better off if our water is safe. And if we can support small residential farmers. So maybe that's kind of something for us to think about is a grant that's sort of cost sharing and makes it more cost approachable for small scale farmers. Something that brings you closer to the fire hydrant water, right? Something that's a few $100 a year, still really good, but also protects the public's water safety. What do you think about something like that?
I think that would be definitely helpful. Maybe also, maybe the city would be willing to do it if there's not money to outright grant to people. Would they be possibly open to the idea of, financing it essentially, so that somebody could get water, which opens up a lot more possibilities for actually generating some income out of the small plot, so that over the course of, say, a year or something, you could then pay the loan off or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think we are grateful to be joined by Johnny Taylor. I think he might want to make a comment on the topic as well.
First of all, I want to say good evening to everyone. Thank you so much for participating on today. And just to echo what's already been said about the backflow situation, you were dead on as far as the public health concern. We want to make sure that pollutants and contaminants don't get into our potable water system. So that's what it boils down to. And so we're just trying to protect and make sure that we don't create a situation where there could possibly be some type of situation where something harmful goes back into the system. A public system usually pushes water to the person or those receiving the water, but there are cases where you could have a backflow situation. And so that whole system is set up for maintaining the integrity of the system. I heard what you said about a possible solution to offer some type of assistance. I'm not in position to say that that's doable today, but I will have a discussion with someone about that and make sure that even if I'm not able to attend the meeting, that I pass the information on to Tiffany.
Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you. That's encouraging and helpful. Appreciate that.
Yes, sir. You're welcome.
And thank you, everyone, for bringing that topic up. I think that is very, very, very crucial. Even in our community, we had to take the water around there to the garden in wheelbarrows the whole year because they had stopped doing the hooking it up to the fire hydrant. So we never even got to tap in with that water accessibility part of it. But I think we should probably be aware that they got the $55 million in the city. I'm sure Mr. Taylor knows about that. And part of that, a significant part of that was supposed to be devoted to waterworks. And I think this is a very, I think it's an impactful way to use waterworks in our city if we're really sincere about trying to build up resiliency in our communities. They said that they would allow the money to be used for one and done type of projects where, it wasn't something they had to fund year after year. So maybe we can get some type of, just like I know Megan was working on the vouchers with the farmers markets or whatever. Dee Adams had allowed us a certain number that she said that they would sponsor. But if that could go in conjunction with maybe this water thing, I think that'd be a great, great benefit, because that's probably the number one deterrent of somebody trying to grow some food in an urban farm, is not being able to access the water. And we definitely don't want to poison or corrupt the water, just for being allowed to do that. So I think that'd be a great move if we're able to do that.
Yes, sir, Mr. Banner. We'll take note of that as well.
Thank you, sir.
I'm going to have to move off of the meeting, but I did want to say again, thank you for everything that you're doing, and we really appreciate your participation. I'm going to leave you in the very competent and capable hands of Miss Tiffany, and I hope you all have a great evening.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us, Johnny.
You're welcome. Have a good evening.
You too.
Yeah, I think, and again, from my point of view, it's a little bit delicate, because in order to trust the water coming out of the tap, we got to know what's going in, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It was ranked in the top 10, I think.
Yeah, I sent the article in the chat.
Yeah. So I guess our community guests have had a chance to speak. I'd like to open the floor for anyone else who might want to share. But again, since we don't have quorum, it's just a public discussion.
I will actually, go ahead, Matt, sorry.
I was just going to say, if it's not a problem for all the rest of you, I'm sorry, I do need to hop off too. And thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll keep you in the loop on what Mr. Taylor comes back with.
Thanks.
Okay, Megan, I was going to say, so we originally talked about having the Liberty Street Market launch on next week, May 21st, and kind of doing our Urban Food Policy Council get together. I've spoken with some of the urban farmers, and they're just not going to have product available for that date. And so based on the survey feedback, in talking with especially Granville District Farms, because they have probably the largest set, like they fill 2 tables. I think June 18th is what we're going to shoot for a start date, just to make sure everyone has adequate product. So I'm working on finalizing that tomorrow, and I will send out a email to you all with further details. And we'll definitely want you to come out, especially because we'll issue a press release about it, and you all have bid support in launching that initiative. So, Michael, what do you think about that?
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
You think for you too, the third week, the June 18th will work?
Yeah.
Okay.
It would.
Awesome.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Absolutely. But that's it for me. I know Megan's attending to one of her kids. I don't know if
Me too. That's what I've been doing, chasing this dog around the yard. She played too much.
So Brandon is arriving, but at this point, I don't know if we can have a formal meeting.
Yeah.
Hello, Brandon.
Yeah,
I apologize for being late, you all. Had an unforeseen circumstance.
Not a problem.
Yeah, I get it. But I think there, Brandon, we never had quorum, so we just opened it for public discussion. We had 2 guests, one who shared about a mini grant opportunity. I don't know if you can pull up the chat or not. If not, I can send you.
Right here.
And then the other one was from the Food Summit, someone just kind of following up on the public support for water subsidies or water access for small farmers.
Yeah, I think those are 2 very crucial topics too. I'm glad that PTRC is, getting more familiar with us, especially by, them funding the initial farmers market, as y'all brought it back. And in this water piece, like that actually came up during me and Tiffany's session. So I'm glad that somebody like picked up on it. So I've been kind of like too kind of busy to really get into it. But that is so essential to everything that we're doing in the community, is just having access to that water. And if the city really values our program, urban farming, I think I like to see them show and prove that by being intentional about getting behind some of these projects to see what it can do. Like, you cannot grow a real formidable garden without that type of water access. It's not going to be done. Then I seen where 2 of the gardens, one on Cherry Street with Rosa Johnson, and the other one in Happy Hill with Sister Matala, both of them were allowed to get water. I think Rosa got water in 2019, maybe 2018. Then Happy Hill got their water this past year. And I meant to ask Mr. Taylor, like, how was that? How did that come about? I don't know, like, if they're in the Grow Winston program. I'm still trying to get that kind of differentiated. The difference between Grow Winston and the urban farm or the urban agricultural ordinance, and which one would that, which one would allow for this, to put the water in the garden space.
So, I mean, I can clarify a little bit. Community gardening is under this whole umbrella of urban agriculture. And Grow Winston-Salem had started as a way to allow that water access to the fire hydrants. And because that policy changed, we can't do that anymore. I'm not sure how Happy Hill would have gotten that, because I've seen the section of the ordinance that doesn't allow it. So it's something I'll bring up to Mr. Taylor. He is my boss. And I'll ask him about it, and we'll get a meeting scheduled and get some information. But that was the cornerstone piece of Grow. So in essence, Grow is a marketing about this water access, right? But we don't have that program anymore. So it's really just community gardening and support for community gardening under the agriculture umbrella. Do you see?
Am I hearing you correctly in saying that Grow is over?
So Grow is over in the sense of the water access to the hydrant, but we're still encouraging community gardening under urban agriculture.
Okay, so on 22nd in Cleveland, when they used a fire hydrant. Now Happy Hill and Cherry Street, that's good. They got the the water that's, I guess, is connected to a line, and they just got I don't know what you call it, with the lever. So they got that type of water access. So there's 2 different types of water. Now I don't know which one of those will be, or all 3 of those in Grow Winston. I thought, no, actually, yeah, 22nd Cleveland had to be in urban ag.
I'm not sure, honestly, Michael, but what we can do is in this meeting with utilities is talk about what might be some options that we can create for water access. I'm not sure if you're talking I know what you're talking about. I don't know what they're called. The ones with the levers. I don't know if the city, they said the city installed that?
In Happy Hill, that's who they were asking every week about the water. Now I didn't catch them when they actually got it in, but that's who they were asking every week was the city. So
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know.
new to me. So I'll bring that up to Mr. Taylor tomorrow.
Okay. Well, I'll definitely be listening out for it, because that's very crucial right there. We got to scoop it next time, bro. Yeah. Yeah, we gotta next time we gotta yeah, I would like to know that. Because hopefully it's understandable how I got confused in all this. Like, it's just like, I thought we're on fast track, or, on a track to at least get the water. And, they start changing things. So I'm just kind of lost on that whole procedural. Because right now it seemed like what Matt was saying, basically I do the whole thing yourself. On top of getting insurance. But I'm thinking that if Grow Winston is over, the insurance applies to the agricultural ordinance as well, right?
Yeah, I think that the follow-up on how Grow Winston has evolved, I think certainly looking into whether it's a small grant opportunity or some sort of declining balance and making the water aspect more accessible is a great topic to pick up on from the Food Summit. I think probably for tonight without quorum though, unless anyone has any other topics, since we can't vote or things like that, we just kind of move these items forward to agenda items next month. So I think certainly following up and seeing if maybe Johnny and Tiffany can speak a bit more to the evolution of Grow Winston-Salem, where that hydrant to backflow subject went, and get a sense of if something like a grant opportunity for that backflow infrastructure might be supported by the city. Is a way to, what do y'all think? That
sounds like a good start, definitely.
Mm-hmm. I wasn't sure I was exactly tracking on the Kimberly, on the waterworks. I wasn't tracking on exactly where that was going, but if you want to message me and figure out how we can include that in this topic or on the agenda.
You saying how Kimberly Park? You saying
Kimberly Park? I was speaking. I think you were saying something about waterworks.
No, I was saying, talking about it as waterworks, what they had gotten installed on Cherry Street across from Kimberly School.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was saying when they got their, I forget the name of that water, how you get the water tied right into the, like if there's a pre-existing water line right there. I know that Kimberly is under a different arrangement than everybody else, than we are anyway. They pretty much have I wouldn't call it land trust, but it's like they're there in perpetuity, or they might be there for $1 a year or something like that, from a long forgotten arrangement that they had with maybe Dee Adams or somebody. But
I think that's maybe something for us to look into also,
right.
And how perhaps there's some different opportunities or, let's say, arrangements that might be working really well and a good opportunity to duplicate them, right? Like what's scalable that's going on? Is what's going on in Kimberly Park scalable to other small farmers from the city's perspective, and look at putting forth a proposal on that?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Brandon,
scatterbrain.
Brandon and Carol, or I think Tambila joined us as well. Y'all have anything to add to the discussion?
It sounds like not.
No? All right. Well, I appreciate everyone's time tonight. And I think there's some great topics that we'll pick up with in our next meeting. I know that in our next meeting, we'll definitely want to hear some follow-up regarding the food summit. We'll certainly look at the water and utility aspect, ideally with some follow-up for the city, Johnny and Tiffany, and some more information on Kimberly Park on that topic.
Speaking of which, I would be remiss not to acknowledge the recent passing of our dear Brenda Gwynn, who's been a part of the Community Garden Club for over 30 years. So I just wanted to acknowledge her passing this week and the contribution that she has given to that community of Piedmont Park. And that's all I have to say.
That's sad to hear that.
Thank you. Thank you, Brandon. And thank you all for your time this evening. I guess in that, there's not an official closing, right? Because we never officially opened it. But
You can just adjourn when you'd like.
yeah, so I think unless there's any further ado, our meeting is adjourned.
They appreciate you all.
Hey, take care. Thanks, y'all.